be interested, and everyone in the audience, we have what we think is is something that can be very helpful to mortgage holders and funds. I'll tell you that this is something when AHP was a fund, branch servicing was super important to us, and it was something that was elusive. It was something we kind of heard about, but was tough to actually get servicers to do. So we'll tell you a little bit of the story, and also what the solutions that we've come up with in compliant, offering a compliant servicing branch to funds and mortgage holders who prefer maximum control over their asset disposition. So we'll get into the details. Right now, I'd like to introduce everybody. Just again, my name is George Newbery. I'm the founder and CEO of AHP Servicing. Laurice, do you want to give maybe just say hello and maybe just a brief introduction of and include your servicing experience?
My name is Laurice Schrinda. I'm currently president here at AHP Servicing. I've been in the industry for about 2 decades with 50-50 experience. So the first half of my experience has to do with loan originations, and the second half here is in servicing. Enjoying every minute of it. I've been here with AHP since, I want to say since May, and really looking forward to working with some of you guys here on the call.
Thanks, Laurice. Christine.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christine Sahyers. I'm General Counsel for AHP. And like Laurice, I have also been in the industry for a couple of decades, which doesn't make me feel very young anymore saying that. And I've been at AHP for a year, and my background is predominantly the ins and outs of servicing.
And Rich.
Hey, I'm Rich Riddle. I work as a VP of Investor Relations for AHP. Similar to the first 2, I've been in the mortgage industry for about 2 decades. The last 14 years I've been a prior servicer, and I'm looking forward to the call.
I appreciate that. So we will get started. And again, we're going to talk. I see a couple people just joined. We're talking about having an AHP servicing branch in your office. So remotely, if you're in Kansas City, then we're putting servicing team members in Kansas City dedicated to servicing your assets. So let's go into those details. So first, what are the benefits? Why would someone want this, and why not just utilize a traditional servicing arrangement? And I think the benefits are more control over dispositions, increased speed of outreach and results, and which can result in enhanced fund returns. And our key is to operate these compliantly, and that's these have come and gone in the past, these arrangements, and they have I think compliance has always been a concern, and it's definitely a concern for us. And we've tried to come up with a model that both allows a fund to have servicing employees dedicated to their accounts essentially in their offices, but also do so in a compliant manner. And that's the solution that we're going to share with you today. So I'll give you a little bit of history on AHP. So AHP has been around since 2008. We were originally a nonprofit that helped families at risk of foreclosure, but we found the best way to do that was to buy the mortgages. Once we own the mortgages, we could control their dispositions. And so we bought more than 10,000 loans in the last decade. And we've been through a number of different servicers. We went to Resurgent, was actually our first servicer. You may not remember them, but they're now Shell Point, which probably most are familiar with. And from there, we went to Fay, which is where Laurice and Rich spent a good chunk of their careers. And then we went to FCI, and then we went to SN, and every time we were hoping for the next servicer to be better, and each time we didn't get the results that we had hoped for. Now with SN, the reason we moved there is SN said, well, what it'll take for you to move your 1,000 loans over to us? And we said we want a branch. And now SN had never done a branch before, but they agreed in 2014 that they will take us on and explore this branch model. And I'm sharing this because this ties into what we kind of how we got to what we're offering today. But I'll share what we did. So they agreed to it, and we became the first ever dedicated branch of SN. And I put that in quotations because these were really remote employees who were working out of our office on SN computers, SN phones. They were trained by SN. They received paychecks and benefits from SN, and they did the outreach. So they'd be calling, they'd be doing collections, they'd be doing workouts like loan mods, deeds in lieu, short sales. They do skip tracing, and it was helpful. They were literally in the same office as me and the fund asset managers, and we would be kind of saying, hey, we got to work on these loans today, or focus their efforts. But also, where I think it was most rewarding was when they were on the phone with somebody, and we were offering $2,000 for a deed in lieu, and the homeowner was saying, hey, I need $3,500. Instead of that kind of going back and forth through the from servicer to client, hey, we'll get back to you, they could literally put that homeowner on the phone and come and say, hey, can we do this at 3,500, or can we get to 3,000 or something like that? And so that things moved at a faster pace, and this was helpful. And for those of you who were buying NPL at the time, that was speed to resolution was directly impacted your returns. And this was something that was resulted in us having probably some of our best increased returns, and also some of the outreach that we tried to quarterback through the servicing employees previously. It was just magnified. That everything went faster and got resolved, usually at better execution. And the good news for us was that all the back office functions, the compliance, the accounting, the remits, the payment processing, sending statements, that was all left to SN. They did all that. We wanted control over the front line, facing the clients. And for that, we paid SN a monthly servicing fee. We also, for each loan, and then we had to pay the salaries. So everybody that was working in the office, the SN employees, SN would pay them, but we would reimburse them. And we'd not just pay their salary, we'd pay the taxes, the benefits, enough to cover that, as well as any bonuses, any incentive programs that were paid were ultimately reimbursed to SN by us, plus any costs of the, any costs associated with the branch, shipping the computers out, and if any of those incidentals, we'd be reimbursing. But that was for us as a fund, it was everything we wanted. It was fantastic. We loved it. But it came to an end, and I'll tell you why. Actually, I was anticipating the next slide. The next slide, actually, just to reiterate, the benefits of this setup were decreased turn times in resolution decisions, increased efficiencies in the workout process, and my favorite was just, hey, putting them on hold. Hey, can we get this deal done, and making deals fast. So many times, people would, borrowers we'd agree to a deed in lieu arrangement, and it would take sometimes, weeks for the homeowner to get the deed in lieu, and we would try and do it in days, and have the notary meet them at their home or at local McDonald's or something like that, get it signed, give them the check, and be done. And that was a lot of that was accomplished because we had so much control over those dispositions. That said, SN was monitoring every phone call remotely, and if somebody didn't provide a mini Miranda, didn't properly identify the homeowner, they were writing up their employee, letting them know, hey, you can't do this, and if needed, they give them remedial training. And our, these team members were cognizant of, hey, they were working for the servicer, and they had to do things right in order to preserve the arrangement. And it worked. It's the goal in the end is it spiked our returns, and SN, it gave them the opportunity. I think they saw the success with our branch, and I think they opened about a dozen other branches for other funds at the time across the country. And it was great until one day in 2015, SN advised us that they had compliance concerns about the structure, and they advised all the again, quote unquote branches, that they were going to discontinue the arrangement. The good news for us is another servicer, Home Servicing, agreed to take us on as their first ever branch. The bad news is in 2017, SN purchased Home Servicing and said, hey, no more branch. And that was the impetus, that was the point at which we said, hey, we're going to start our own servicer. And so that was the genesis of that idea was after we could not find anyone else who was willing to do a branch. And we said, hey, we're just going to start our own servicer, which has been, I'll tell you, it's been tougher than it looked. It's been a lot of work, and there's a lot, all those back office functions, the compliance, escrows, it's a lot of work, and I appreciate it a lot more. But I still have always remembered those branches and said, hey, this is something that at one point AHP is going to offer, because it does have, it's something that's, I think, it's really attractive to entrepreneurial funds who, the reality is we all think that we can do it better if we're doing it ourselves, that we and our team can do it better than anyone else. And so now here's your opportunity to do that. And I'll say in our case, that's exactly what happened. So here's what we offer. So when I originally went to Christine and our compliance team and said, hey, we want to do this, what did SN have concerns about that we can solve from a compliance perspective so that we don't have the concerns or issues that SN had, and how can we offer branch servicing compliantly? And so the first thing was, we can't simply call it a quote unquote branch and have these team members as remote employees. That's not, some regulators may not like that structure. We actually need to go ahead and license each branch. So the states that require branch licenses, we're going to go ahead and get a license for the branch. That will also mean that we will need a qualified individual, a branch manager for each branch. And that branch manager, and Christine can go into this in a moment, needs to have some experience. They need to work for a servicer and take the responsibility for that branch. And again, just like when we did it with SN, the functions performed at the branch, outreach, collections, loss mitigation, skip tracing, everything that's necessary in order to get to dispositions, all the back office functions AHP gets to handle. Actually, on that point, Christine, do you want to share a qualified individual? What do states require of that person?
Well, so, it varies from state to state, but on average, for a qualified individual, you're going to have 3 to 5 years of servicing experience. There's a credit check that's going to have to be pulled. There's a background check that's going to have to be pulled. Some states do require some individuals to actually have a MLO license, if you're going to be talking loss mitigation as far as offering modification.
Yeah, and on that, we do have a solution. So it'll be customized solutions. If you don't have that MLO license, or certain states that require an MLO to disclose the modification terms, we do have team members in our office that are licensed in multiple states as MLOs. So we can assist you with that function. So you can still initiate the mod, but the actual terms are going to need to be handled by a licensed MLO. Thanks, Christine. Again, the benefits, just to reiterate, targeted outreach. You could say, hey, prioritize these loans, prioritize the highest balance loans, the highest value loans, or whatever, and have these team members focus on these. These are dedicated. They're only working on your assets. And the goal is to accelerate resolutions, provide you maximum control, and increase your returns. And the deal. So Christine actually asked me to edit this, and I didn't because I just get to it. But the licensing, so I should have put approximately $20,000 for licensing. So what does this cost? What does it cost you if you're interested in proceeding? So to get the licenses, to get the surety bonds, it's a pass-through, and I estimated $20,000. Christine says it may be a few thousand more, but in that range, whatever it costs to get the necessary licenses and the surety bonds, we'd simply pass through to you. And Christine, if I understood correctly, it depends a little bit on the state that the branch should be located in terms of what the licensing requirements will be. So that can vary, but expect $20,000, maybe a little bit more. And that's up front. that'll be incurred over the first few months, and then there'll be renewals on an annual basis, and we're estimating roughly 15,000. But whatever those are, we can give you the matrix. And also, if you're not servicing in all states, that can reduce it. If there's some smaller, lower population states that you'd say, hey, that's not needed, that can reduce that both the upfront and the annual renewal cost. In addition, a monthly servicing fee, onboarding fees, all the traditional fees, those are just as they are. But again, just like we did with SN, whether you have 2 people or you have 20 people on your team that are servicing your loans, they will, the salaries that we pay them would be reimbursed, taxes, benefits, any bonuses or incentive structure that you have, and any branch related cost. And what are those costs? We do need to, if you need to lease additional space, that could be space that needs to be leased by the servicer, and obviously that cost will be passed through to you. Now, they could be leasing it from you, and that's something that we would, depends on the arrangement, what space you have available. It does need to be an office, that a regulator could visit if they so desired, and an address that we're putting on that license. And that's it. I wanted to give you the kind of story of how we got to this point, and then see what questions people had. Rich is kind of leading this effort, and you said, hey, I'm ready to sign up. You can, or I should say, really explore further. You can reach out to Rich, but we're ready to go on these. I'll tell you, when we were looking for a branch 5, 6, 7 years ago, we always heard like, well, BSI did one, FCI did one, BSI did one for PIMCO and things like that, and but they want us to put a massive deposit. So we want to make these happen. We see it's a great opportunity, a great service. We understand the servicing relationship from both sides, both as a servicer and as a fund. So I think we can deliver a solution that can be attractive to anyone who's running a fund. With some minimum number of loans. I'd expect certainly over 1,000 makes a lot of sense. Even over 500, it's worth a conversation. If it's 100 loans, that's probably not something that's going to be cost effective. But it's something, I think on everyone's mind is, the next downturn is certainly on the horizon, and with that will be increased opportunities to deploy money and turn those assets. And I think the servicing branch, I think now's the time to get it set up in anticipation of increased acquisition opportunities that will probably present themselves over the next 6 to 24 months and onwards from there. So if anyone has a question, you're welcome to kind of type it in, and then you can internally we'll answer anything that comes up. I'll throw a few things out to Christine from a compliance perspective. Any thoughts, your perspective on the branch servicing solution and what both the benefits and the challenges and how from a compliance perspective, any comments?
No, not really. I think obviously, as you spoke, if it's a branch office, it's sitting in an investor's office right there, that they have immediate access for answers for loss mitigation. That's obviously a great asset to have. From a compliance perspective, for licensing, states do take their time. So if somebody wants to move forward, the sooner we know, the better, that we can start that process, because especially for licensing, the renewals come at the end of the year. So we're getting close to that time period where states are going to get very, very busy. So this, the faster we move forward with this, the faster we can get these licenses implemented.
Appreciate that. Give us, I remember when we first started getting licensed as a servicer, some states took literally 30 days. Other states, we're 4 years in and we're still waiting on New York, which is definitely an outlier. But what should people expect in terms of a branch license, which I think should be certainly a lot more predictable than a traditional, like a new servicer license?
It should go faster, obviously, but the concern is some of these states do take their time as far as approving. I mean, we can get some states that maybe, within a few days they could have an application approved. In other states, like Florida is one of them, seems to be taking a while to get renewals processed even from last year. So, it's hard to say. It does help sometimes to have relationships when we work with these state regulators over and over again, that maybe we can help push things through a little faster. But it really does depend state by state and to how busy they are at the time.
Appreciate that. Hey, Laurice, let me move to you on the. So we have a branch arrangement right now. Give us maybe your experience in terms of what's working, what challenges, anything particular for a servicing client to expect.
Sure. So to kind of piggyback off of Christine on the compliance perspective, I wanted to speak about the compliance perspective from an account management standpoint. So from an account management standpoint, we will be training, your employees with regards to, making sure, and George had already mentioned this earlier, but making sure that the mini Mirandas are being stated, making sure that they know how to properly document and use the system so that everything is notated. We will be regularly listening to calls just for opportunities in improvement, specifically as it relates to compliance, that we're stating everything that we need to state or that we are not saying certain things. And again, documentation. We will work with you as it relates to loss mitigation as well, so that we can come up with a standard waterfall that is compliant, and that's how CFPB wants us to be reviewing all of our loss mitigation opportunities, that we have a bona fide waterfall that we use, based off of the specifications that you want, but that when a loss mitigation package comes in, that we know, let's review repayment plan first. If a repayment plan doesn't work, let's review deferment, then a modification, then a deed in lieu, short sale, so on and so forth. The current relationships that we have right now, I think it works very well. It's a very easy relationship, if you will, because that particular branch, they control their decisions right away. There is no delay in having, let's say if it was one of my SPOCs, we'd reach out to, if it was something that needed a little bit more review, then we would reach out to the investor and then have those conversations. But at that point, you're already there. You're frontline, you're on the phone. And some of the people that we work with, they actually are on the phone with the borrower. They will actually make some of the outgoing calls themselves. But it's very easy. The lift for us is, and both sides is, the lift for us is that from the account management perspective, it's already taken care of by the investor, right? But then from the operational perspective, the back end, that's your lift that we provide to you. You don't have to worry about any of the payments, the billing. You don't have to worry about any of the remits. You don't have to worry about any escrows being paid, escrows being monitored, property preservation. We will continue to service as a normal arrangement. The biggest difference, though, is that the front end you can control. So I think that the relationship has been working very smoothly. I know Rich speaks with our branch, our branches that are currently doing that on a regular. I know you have them on a regular cadence just to answer any additional questions they have, or questions about remits or things like that.
I appreciate that, Laurice. Rich, do you want to give your experience and your perspective you're using on the front line with our investors?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I got a ton more to add after Laurice. That was a pretty good summary. Like I said, it's fairly seamless, right? As far as you would get the opportunity to kind of do the front end, as far as like where we need you and to make that business decision, and then we take care of all the kind of the back end piece as far as the logistics. So
I appreciate that, Rich. Hey, I have a question from Eric. Can you send out a copy of the presentation deck? Absolutely, we'll send it out to all registrants. Yeah, and again, we'll send you out the deck. If you want, if you're interested in learning more or proceeding, then please reach out to Rich, and we'll probably all all of us on presenting will probably be part of helping you get set up and making the branch a reality for you. This is something we're set up to do on multiple. It's not going to be something that's I always felt when we were going to other servicers, it was like something that if they did it kind of begrudgingly, that they weren't completely comfortable doing it. Here we want to make it so that this is something that's we have a template for it. It's not going to be like a special circumstance. It's something, okay, this particular client wants a branch, and so that's what we're going to do, and here's our turnkey setup for that. And I'll say in our experience, it's worked great for NPL, for non-performing loans, where you're working towards a resolution, as opposed to a holder of performing loans where it's probably doesn't present much value to simply collect the payments. But there are some other, we've had inquiries. We haven't had, no one's pulled the trigger yet, but other like fix and flip lenders, others who want more control or to preserve the relationships with the clients, but they want to do that in a compliant manner. This does, this does present an option for them. So we're certainly not performing is the obvious need for this. And again, to emphasize, I think everybody in the market is, I hear people raising money in anticipation of the next deluge of non-performing opportunities. So that's coming, and this is one way to, I think, give yourself a optimize your resolutions is by incorporating a branch into your strategy. And that's it. So I think that's the presentation. We'll send out the deck. We'll also send out a recording. So if there's anyone else in your company that you need to share with. And again, the next step, if you are interested, is to please reach out to Rich, and his information is on the screen, and we'll also include it in the email. And we will get you continue the conversation and hopefully move forward with a branch. So we appreciate everyone's attendance today. I hope everyone learned a lot, and we look forward to working with you more. So thanks, everyone.